All right, guys, welcome back to part 2 of the Iceland and Norway series. Last episode, we talked about the planning side of the trip, the insane travel time, and arriving in Iceland. But now I want to get properly into the actual experience because some of the stories and chaos and all that stuff sounds unreal. So let's dive in. One thing I've noticed from your story is how much adapting there is and the pivot with the itinerary. So people see the final photos online, but they don't see all of the behind the scenes. Like you mentioned, the weather, the waiting around, the broken gear. Didn't your filter break at some point? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the filter did break. So I can't even remember exactly at what point it broke, but I realized that because when you're doing landscape photography, especially during the day, you've got ND filters to reduce the light that's coming into the sensor, and that sits just in front of the lens. So I didn't even realize it was broken because I was just shooting and all of a sudden it just fell onto rocks.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was obviously broken. So you have to just adapt and roll with it. So what I did was I had to improvise. So the filter, which is a rectangular piece of glass, sits inside a mount, and that mount is supposed to thread onto your lens filter. Mm-hmm. So because that broke, what I did was I used the rectangular piece of glass, which was attached to the mount, and I basically just held it sitting on top of my lens. So it actually wasn't attached properly, it was just sitting on there.
You just held it manually.
Sometimes I held it, or sometimes I just put it on there carefully and just left it.
Yeah.
And just hoped that it would just not move.
Wow.
Especially, and that's tricky with long exposure shots. So that was a spanner in the works, but you just have to roll with it. And I was there, I didn't have an alternative, and I was like, okay, what do I do? It was only applicable to day shots. At night, you don't use that because it's dark anyway. So it's only during the day where I had to improvise with that little improvisation that I came up with. So the whole trip was really about adapting, and like you mentioned, rejigging the itinerary. Because I got so lucky with the Northern Lights, because it was a really strong solar storm, the forecasts were off. So the aurora was either a good display when I was expecting a bad one, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So you just have to roll with it.
Yeah.
There was even a situation where it was 4 p.m. and it was still twilight. So in other words, you could still see. It wasn't pitch black, and the Northern Lights came out.
Far out. And you weren't expecting it, hey?
No, well, I was just driving thinking I need to get to the certain place I'm going to by 6 p.m. And I'm driving at 4 p.m. and I'm like, that can't be, can it? It's and I was looking at the clock and I was like, it's 4 p.m. Yeah. It's bright. Yeah. How can the aurora be out right now? That's how strong the aurora was, and that's how lucky I got. I basically just had to slam the brakes, pull over, and take some shots because you just never know what curveballs are gonna be thrown at you. So things like that and things like the filter breaking are just part of the whole experience, the whole adventure. You just got to roll with it.
Did you ever get frustrated? This is your one in 11 years opportunity.
It was very frustrating with things like the filter breaking because you come all this way. I've only got one. Well, I had a few ND filters, but they're all different variables, different darknesses.
Yeah.
But the actual mount itself, I only had one, and that one broke, so I didn't have a backup. So it was frustrating that, okay, I need to figure out how to do this. Yeah. So it's just, as I mentioned, just a matter of concocting some sort of scenario where I'm either holding it and making sure it doesn't touch the camera, because any touch of the camera will make the camera vibrate. And with a long exposure shot, it'll just ruin your photo. Or just hang it on the outside of the lens and just hope it just sits there.
Just don't touch anything.
Yeah, but then that then depends on, okay, which way is my camera facing? If it's straight on or facing up, it's fine. But if I'm actually angling the camera down, the lens actually fell off again, because obviously it's not mounted properly. So you just got to roll with it.
So this is an interesting thought, but do you think your past job in the federal police contributed to helping your mentality and your adaptation and all that, just rolling with it?
Yeah, definitely. I think my past experiences and past jobs gave me confidence, experience, and handy skills to just adapt to whatever is happening in that scenario. Yeah. And also just to basically, I lived by this model of it is what it is.
Yeah.
And whereas before my previous jobs, for example, in the federal police, I was so if something happened, I was so frustrated, or I would let it get to me.
Yeah.
Whereas it got to a point where, okay, it is what it is. You need to control what you can control, and then you need to be able to just adapt and go with the flow, and you need to just pivot.
Yeah.
So whenever certain things like that happened on this trip, I just had to. That's what my mindset was. So I just had to pivot and say, okay, well, this is the scenario. What can I do now? And then just go with it.
I love that mindset. I feel like it's, really important nowadays. And so much is out of your control. And going back onto the main topic. So when weather conditions are bad or with those long exposure shots, do you just wait or would you move on or, Yeah,
you need to always be on the ball there, especially with the weather. The weather there changes very quickly.
Yes.
And it's very known for that part of the world. So you could have clear skies at one point, and then 15, 20 minutes later, it's overcast or it's raining.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So you need to always be able to adapt. So my itinerary was, again, it was jam-packed. So I'd have various stops throughout the day and then 1 or 2 stops at night.
Yeah.
So then I would have to get to my short list stop, get set up and get ready for my shots. I then have to assess the situation and think, okay, is the weather playing ball or is it not? Is it not really working and it's not really what I thought? Or do I move on or do I give up? So these are the scenarios where you have to just make a decision on the spot and just deal with it and stick to it. So you make a decision, whether it's right or wrong, just make a decision and go with it. So there was certain scenarios where I got to a spot and I actually didn't even bother taking a shot.
Wow.
So I got to that location and then I when I saw it in person, I was like, you know what? It's not what I expected. It's not really going to work for me. Let's just move. So I actually just took one look. I said, nah, this isn't going to work. And then just kept driving and went to the next spot.
Yeah.
There was also another scenario where I, at Hamnoi, where I was spending the majority of my time in the Lofoten Islands, where I was standing on the bridge, which is the one and only, the very famous bridge there in Hamnoi, to take a shot of where I was actually staying, which was the red cabins, which I'll put on the screen right now. And so my idea was I wanted to take beautiful photos of the Hamnoi landscape, which is very Instagrammable.
Yes.
And then the weather wasn't playing ball. So it got very overcast and then it was just complete overcast. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to see any northern lights. I'm not going to see anything right now. I may as well just give up and just head back because it was probably like maybe 10 p.m. or something. I was very tired. I just wanted to get to bed.
Yeah.
And because the bridge is right where that accommodation is, I started walking back to my hotel. So I started walking back and then of course, as soon as I get back, the weather cleared. And that walk was only 5 minutes.
Wow.
So as soon as I got back, I just looked up and thought, here we go again. So I just grabbed my gear and just went back out. And it's actually lucky that I went back out there because I went back out there and I managed to get a time lapse, which I'll also put on the screen right now. So it's just a matter of adapting to the weather situations. And then when you have to make a decision and stick to it. Am I going to move to the next location? Am I going to stay and wait it out? You got to make a decision. And because the weather changes so quickly, that decision could make or break your photo.
Yeah.
But you also have to be able to make the decision of changing your mind or giving it another shot. So as I mentioned, giving up on that photo, heading back to my room to call it a night, but then looking up and saying, hang on a minute, I think there's a chance here, heading back out and giving it another shot. And then I waited for about maybe an hour or so and managed to get, even it was only like a 5-second time lapse, but I managed to go back out there and then I'm lucky and I'm glad that I did because I managed to get a nice time lapse.
It all works out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It is what it is, but it all works out.
Yeah.
I think this is just interesting overall, but there's obviously a lot of like attention with your trips, right? You want to be enjoying the moment. You're there for photography, and similarly, like you've got to look after your health when you travel and all those aspects. Did you struggle with that balance?
Yeah, I definitely did because the photography in me always wants just to get the perfect shot. And of course, this trip was just a photography trip. So my whole aim was getting to these different locations and taking the photo, like the money shot.
Yeah.
And so it was frustrating if you don't get the money shot or you have to keep trying again or the weather wasn't playing ball. So it does really affect you mentally.
Yeah.
Because you paid all this money, you came all this way and you just want to get one damn shot. And the weather's not playing ball. So it's just getting into that mentality of, okay, again, it is what it is. I'm just going to take a photo and at least it's going to be genuine. Yes, you see all these photos online of the money shot and some of them these days are just AI.
Yeah.
But at least if you take a photo, regardless of what the weather is doing at that time, you can at least say that this was genuine.
Yeah.
I was there, I took this photo and this was what was happening at the time. So you just got to adapt with what's given to you, whether it's weather or whatever it may be, and just go with the flow and just try to be as positive as possible. When you go to a place like that, you can't give yourself 2-3 nights and see how you go. You actually need to give yourself 4, 5, 6 nights because the weather changes so quickly.
Yeah.
So one piece of advice I would give people going to those areas of the world is if you're going to certain areas where you're actually trying to get Northern Lights shots, for example, don't just go for 1 or 2 nights and think, oh, I'll try. No, you need to give yourself multiple nights because more than likely, half of your nights are going to be a write-off in terms of the weather. So it was lucky that I knew that beforehand and I planned it properly to give myself that opportunity. Because the first few nights that I was in Lofoten, it was actually very cloudy and I did not see any Northern Lights.
Yeah.
So I was lucky that I then had another few nights to play with up my sleeve.
Murphy's Law, isn't it?
Yeah.
The one time you're there. Yeah, that's really interesting. I guess this is a question I've always wanted to ask a photographer, but when you look at your photos, do you like relive that moment? Do you like have a book of, all your travel photos especially?
Yeah, I do relive the moments. They're all etched in my hand and they don't. It's very hard to forget moments like that.
Yeah.
And I can relive them very easily. And of course, if I look at them in the photos, I relive that moment. And because there's a story behind each photo,
Yeah.
To you or the people watching, you can look at a photo and say, yeah, that's a great photo, but you don't really know the story behind it or how did Bish actually take this photo or what did he experience to get that photo? Whereas obviously I experienced it and I know. So when I look at the photo, I know the struggle of the photo or I know that it took X hours to get it, or I sat there for 2 hours waiting, or whatever it may be. So there's a story behind each photo, and I know that photo, that story. So each time I look at a photo, I can relive that moment of what it took to get that photo, and then appreciate it more.
That's lovely. And I think also doing a podcast like this, and maybe people in the comments below if you want to see Bish walking us through all the photos and what goes behind it. But I think it's really lovely to hear that and lovely to know. And yeah, sounds very sentimental.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you mentioned you also tried snowmobiling. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so one of the activities I did actually plan to do, and during my planning of the trip, I had booked it in, was snowmobiling. So I have done it before, so this was my second time. So this was snowmobiling in Iceland, and it was actually the second largest glacier in all of Europe.
Wow.
So it was very large, and it was actually very high as well.
Yeah.
And
Was it scary?
well, it was a good experience because they obviously drive you out to the glacier, and there was actually other people trying to drive out there themselves, and they got stuck, and you could see all the cars and even four-wheel drives just bogged up in the snow. So you need to have the correct vehicles and the setups of the vehicles to get there. So to get to a glacier, you got to drive through different conditions. It could be rocks, and then it turns into snow and then ice and whatever it may be. So we had these big, huge vehicles where the tires themselves are like a meter big.
Wow.
So the tires themselves actually have a system inside where the driver can actually control the pressure of the tires. So you can actually increase or decrease the pressure. And that's what you actually need to do when you're driving on these conditions. So these are the things where the average Joe Blow doesn't think about. So all these guys that I saw that we drove past, they just hire a car, think I'm going to drive to a glacier and do snowmobiling, and then they get stuck because they don't realize that I need to adjust my tire pressure when I'm driving on different terrains.
Yeah.
So
Did you see anyone getting saved?
no, I didn't.
Oh
so
no, they're probably still here to that day.
yeah. So that was an experience just getting to the glacier. And then obviously doing the snowmobile was fun. So that's always a fun activity to do. So as I said, it was my second time. So I knew what to expect. I knew how to handle the snowmobile. And it is very different because I do ride a motorbike.
Okay.
So handling a motorbike is going this way, whereas riding a snowmobile or even an ATV is going this way. So it's actually goes against what your brain's telling you to do. So you got to press a button and go that way. So it does get a bit of getting used to, but it is fun during the experience. But in terms of footage, I actually took a GoPro, which I actually mounted to a wrist mount that I had. So I actually had the GoPro on a swivel mount so that I can turn it to get POV of me and then turn it to get the snowmobile and the scenery. The problem was it was so windy that it was just a complete whiteout. It was at least minus 20,
Yeah.
and it was so ridiculous that you could not see anything in the footage. So I didn't even bother using any of the footage because you could not see it. It was just white. The screen was white.
In
That's
real
how-
life, could you see, like in person, you could see what was happening?
In person, all I could see was the snowmobile in front of me. That's all I could see. It was that bad. Like the wind was so strong up there. It would have been easily minus 20 with the wind chill. And it was the wind was strong. The temperature was very freezing. I was wearing gloves and everything. Like my fingers were frozen. I couldn't feel my fingers. I couldn't feel my toes.
Wow.
The footage was a write-off. I couldn't use it.
Can you hear you screaming?
Couldn't hear anything. All I could hear was the wind.
Wow.
So, but in saying that, it was very fun. It was a great experience, and it was a beautiful landscape scenery that we got to experience up there on the second highest glacier in Europe.
That's lovely. And it's lovely you got to do some adventures on your trip as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so you visited a geisha, but you also mentioned that you randomly stumbled upon one. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so during my drive from the southeast of Iceland to Reykjavik, on that drive where I saw no one on the road, this was when I was going to do the snowmobiling. After I finished the snowmobiling, I was then driving to Reykjavik to spend my last night in Iceland before then flying to Norway. And I was driving, and then from the corner of my eye, I could just see these gas and smoke plumes just coming out of the ground.
Wow.
And then I looked at the sign and I saw it there. If you look this up, this is actually one of the stops on the Golden Circle tour in Iceland.
Wow.
So it's one of the very touristic things to do in Iceland. And I just stumbled across it by chance. So
What did the sign say? Did it say like warning, do not go near or anything?
No, so it actually just said Geisa there on the sign.
Okay.
And then the name of it, which I can't remember, but it's one of the biggest ones in Iceland.
Stunning.
Yeah, and because it sits on top of where all the chambers are that come out of the volcanoes. And so when I saw the sign and I saw the smoke and gas plumes, and I was like, slam the brakes, pull over. And I was like, I've got like maybe 10, 15 minutes. Let's just see what's going on here.
Yeah.
Got out of the car, and again, lucky that I did, because I got to experience the big explosions that come out of the ground, and you can even feel the heat coming out of it. And I think the heat can go up to 100 degrees Celsius.
That's
so
crazy.
Which is interesting.
Nice and warm in there.
Well, there's a sign that says no swimming, and I was like, who's going to be swimming in that?
Maybe if you're desperate.
Yeah. So that was another great experience that I just stumbled across by chance.
That's amazing. Did you get any photos?
Yeah, so because I was just in a rush, I didn't even bother taking my SLR, so I just got some phone photos just for the memory.
Stunning though. That's amazing. Okay, so imagining getting out of the car, I'm guessing it was pitch black when you saw this geisha. Did you ever have like moments like that, even in that moment where you're like, what am I actually doing here? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I actually got there just on sunset, so it was actually getting dark, and it was great that I got there just in time, because another 15 odd minutes and it would have been too dark to see anything. But then, yes, driving in the dark, it's just pitch black because there's no street lights. And a lot of the roads, particularly in Norway, which we'll cover in the next episode, but the roads there, there's no street lights. There's no, how here in Australia you have those little things on the roads.
Oh, reflectors. Yeah.
There's nothing like that. There's nothing at all. And then the road just drops into a lake. So if you, and you only have about 15, 20 centimeters of play on either side of your lane. And then if one wrong move and you're in the bottom of a frozen lake.
Wow.
So driving there, especially in the dark, is pretty surreal and scary at the same time. And when there's no one on the roads as well, you sit there and you think to yourself, am I going the right way here? So I'm trusting Google Maps in offline mode to get me to where I'm going. Yeah.
Was there any I don't know, wrong turns or I don't know, any disasters from just the driving part of it?
I don't think there was any wrong turns. I don't think there was any anything to worry about in terms of getting lost.
That's good.
So there were obviously the last minute stops, the last minutes. Oh, let's check this place out, whatever it may be. But from memory, I don't think I got lost at all, which was great.
Cool. So overall, what were some of your favorite locations from the trip so far?
So in Iceland, I was mainly focusing on the southeast of the island.
Yeah.
and that was the Hofen area, or Hufen, I think it's pronounced. And I was only focused on literally 2 areas.
Okay.
One was the Glacier Lagoon, and the other was the Vesterhorn Mountain, which has been in a couple of movies. So I was returning there 2-3 times a day.
Wow.
Because that was what I wanted to focus on. So I didn't even see the rest of Iceland. So my main focus was going to Vesterhorn. That was my main and sole focus in Iceland. So I'd have to say that was probably my favorite part of Iceland, is going there. The first time I went there was my first night. At night, it was pitch black. So it was pretty surreal in relying on Google Maps and then trying to get to it, because Google Maps will take you to where the car can get you. But then for me to get to my spot to take the photo, I have to walk.
Yeah, in the pitch black.
So I'd have to walk in pitch black. I did have a headlight on my beanie, on my head. So that would give me some sort of direction. But walking in pitch black, you could just make out the mountain, which was pretty eerie because it's a big black mountain in pitch black.
Yeah.
And then because it's on the water, you can hear the waves crashing against the rocks, which is maybe 100 meters away. But then you're thinking, when am I going to hit water? Is there a drop here? Where am I going? I have no idea where I'm walking here. So I'm relying on one headlight to get to where I'm going and try to find a spot to take a photo. And a lot of the times it's trial by error. A lot of the times it's, okay, it's getting dark here. It might be a bit dangerous if I walk any further. I may as well just camp here and just take a photo. So that's the sort of experiences I was having. And that was probably my favorite area in Iceland.
That's lovely. Did you ever have any time when you got lost on the foot trail?
I don't know if I got lost, but I probably didn't get to the spot where I actually wanted to take the photo. So the place where I wanted to take the photo was probably a few hundred meters further back. And that would have, because where I was probably even too close to the mountain. So I wanted to be a bit further back to get the whole mountain, and then to even get the mirror reflection of the water in the sands. And I will put up on the screen now some mirror reflections of the mountain, which still did turn out great when I was actually walking on the black sands, which was beautiful. Wow. But the photo I actually wanted was way further back. But because it was pitch black and I could hear the ocean, I just didn't know where I was walking. It was just too dangerous to get there.
That was a call, and everything works out.
Safety first.
Yeah, 100%. That's good. Did you, out of curiosity, were you ever worried that you would come across like a wild animal out there? What was your plan of attack?
Not really, because Iceland and Norway, in the areas that I've been to, aren't really known for wild animals. So it's not like I'm going to encounter a polar bear or anything like that.
That's good.
If anything, I would see a small animal like a fox or something like that. So I wasn't really scared. I wasn't really worried or anything like that. That does remind me of an experience where I was in New Zealand hiking Roy's Peak. And when I was hiking at 3 a.m., I could see cows and sheep, and their eyes, when my headlight hit them, their eyes would just dart back at you. That just look like these two beams just staring at you. So you do sometimes encounter these wild animals when you're going to places like these. But on this particular trip, I didn't encounter any, and I wasn't really fazed about it.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Okay. So would you say that Glacier Lagoon and the black sand beaches actually lived up to your expectations?
So with the Glacier Lagoon, it didn't really live up to my expectations, but I think that was mainly due to the weather.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, because it was Iceland in general was very overcast when I was there. So it didn't really give me the opportunity to get the photo that I wanted. And I know that this is talking from a photographer's point of view, where all I care about is a photo. I'm not really stepping out of the photographer persona and into the person of just enjoy the moment, enjoy where you are. So the photographer side of me was a bit dudded that I'm not going to get the shot that I wanted.
Yeah.
So in times like that, the lagoon wasn't really what I expected, but then I actually, in a way, it worked well because I then got to enjoy it just from a normal human point of view.
Yeah.
And then there was some food trucks there, so I got a nice hot seafood soup, trying to wait for the weather to clear and just enjoy the glaciers. You can hear the glaciers cracking in the water. I actually got to see a seal. So actually that answers your previous question. I actually got to see a seal in the in the water at the lagoon.
Wow,
so you get to enjoy those moments rather than having to worry about the photo. And then with the black sand, so the black sand at Vesterhorn was actually really nice to actually walk on the black sand and get those shots and experience that moment. I was planning to go to another black sand beach, which I didn't get to go to. But for those who have heard the news recently, there's actually a landslide. And then that actually particular spot is now out of bounds and actually ruined.
Wow.
Which was a shame. And in a way, I wish I did go to there to experience it. But
you would have had an exclusive shot of it.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. That's good. It lived up to your expectations.
yeah.
At this point in the trip, and you mentioned the cloudy conditions and all that, did it feel like that the Northern Lights were actually going to happen?
So because I saw them the first night at Iceland, it gave me hope, or some sort of hope. But because I had known that the forecast for Iceland was very cloudy and overcast for the few days that I was there, I actually was not banking on any Northern Lights for the rest of the trip. Yeah. And so I was in Iceland for 3 nights, I think it was. So I saw it the first night. I did not see it the 2 nights after that.
Wow.
And I pretty much knew that was going to be the case. So, but again, I was mainly focused on Norway. So seeing the Northern Lights in Iceland would have been a bonus anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I got to see them on the first night. So then at least I could say I saw them.
Yep.
And then knowing that now it's just time to focus on Norway.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so I feel like we've mostly talked about Hoffen, but how was Reykjavik? I feel like that's the tourist location.
It is the very touristy place to go to in Iceland, and it's the main city in Iceland. Because it's a city, I didn't really focus this trip on any city life or city type things to do, because I just wanted to be remote.
Yeah.
And because this was a photography trip, so Reykjavik was actually the one night in the whole trip where I could just chill and relax.
Lovely.
And just experience a city. Reykjavik wasn't about anything to do with photography. So what I did was I got to go do a lava tour. So they actually get to show you how lava is made, and you actually get to keep a piece of lava and take home. So I've got a piece of lava.
Yeah, show that photo.
I should have brought it with me as a prop, but I'll put it on the screen. So I got to see a lava tour, which was cool. And then I got to just go out and have some drinks. So Reykjavik was just about just chilling, letting my hair down, and just having a nice night in Reykjavik, which was my last night in Iceland. And then look forward to, because I had an early flight the next day to get to Norway. So just about chilling before the main part of my trip, which was Norway.
That's a lovely way to end that chapter of the journey. And honestly, overall, I feel like just after Iceland, it sounded pretty unreal, but I think you were definitely looking forward to Norway. So next episode is going to be the big one. So that's when we get into Norway, Lofton, and of course the Northern Lights. And also a few chaotic stories on the way home. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you in part 3.